I got some feedback from a follower of mine, and he asked if I could talk a little bit about depression. And this is something that I've had to deal with before, so this video is about depression. Depression is something that affects so many people in our society these days, and we all have different ways of coping with it, and some people cope really well, and sadly some people don't. I've been through many bouts of pretty bad depression in my life. I've had a number of times where I have felt that it would be a better thing if I just wasn't here. And depression is one of those things that as you allow yourself to start feeling those feelings, they tend to grow. They tend to multiply inside your head. They can be very difficult to eradicate completely. I found that in some situations, my depression became a bit of a crutch for me. I used it as the excuse for not interacting with people, or I used it as the excuse for not going somewhere and doing something or changing anything. And it became a way to kind of get negative attention, if that makes sense, because I wanted people to feel sorry for me. And as they felt sorry for me, I started feeling more sorry for myself. And it wasn't until I was in a really, really dark spot and I was living by myself. I had no job, I had very little money, and I had moved to a place where I thought there was a bigger support structure. I thought I had more friends in that area. Turns out I didn't. Turns out that they were friends when they needed me for something. And that was a really tough pill to swallow. And it put me in a very, very dark place, having recently ended an abusive relationship, and then having gotten into another relationship that started online. We met and things were fantastic, and then I got dumped. And I was alone, and I was cut off from everyone, and there was no one around, and I felt that I had no support structure. And it was a very, very dark time for me. It was the start of winter. It was cold and it was miserable. And in the new place that I was living, I ended up putting everything I needed, my computer and everything, into my bedroom because it was just so cold in the rest of the apartment. It was the only room I could get relatively warm and sort of keep warm in. And it was very difficult. It was a very, very hard time, and I remember feeling totally helpless and totally useless because I had no money and I had no job and I couldn't get out of the house and I couldn't go and do things and so on and so forth. And I was very fortunate in that at the time a really good friend of mine in the UK and my sister were in a lot of communication with me. And the one thing my sister, and yes, for those of you that don't know, I do have a sister, she said to me is the one party that no one wants to attend is a pity party. And that's very true. When you're depressed and when you're going through a depression, people tend to shy away from you because they don't want to be drawn into that negativity. And that just basically feeds into your depression. And so I had to find a couple of ways to get through that depression, to get over it. And between my sister and my friend in the UK, there were a couple of things that really, really helped me. One of them was just a simple change of scenery. And that doesn't mean, going to a different room or sitting in a different window or sitting in a different chair. It meant getting up, getting out and forcing myself to go for a walk. Go and explore something that I hadn't before. That was the first sort of thing that was really difficult for me to do. It was, it was cold, and it was, by this stage it was February in Ontario, and if you know anything about the Great Lakes, it's really cold and damp down there. And I found having to force myself into winter gear and get out there and just look at stuff that was different was such a great help. That was the first thing that helped. It also helped because it was changing my routine. I tend to be a creature of habit. I think we all do. I wake up in the morning and I do a certain thing in a certain way in a certain time, and so on and so forth. And just a slight change to that made a huge difference for me. The other thing that really helped me with that was choosing a bunch of songs that what I call feel good. I have a feel good playlist, and I had on my MP3 player, and I'd put in those headphones and I'd go for my walk, and I would go and I'd find new things every time. And as winter was fading and spring was coming in, I was looking at the flowers growing and the plants going from brown to green, and the flowers coming up, and the birds, and all the nature things out there. And that really helped to lift my spirits. The other thing that I did quite a lot of was what my friend in the UK called affirmations, daily affirmations. Because what happens is when you're depressed, you feel like your self-worth is very low. You don't feel like you are worth it for anyone else. And so what I started doing was I started writing down things that were good about myself, things I liked about myself. And at first, the first time I did it, my list was pretty short. And it took someone else to say, hey, but this is great about you. You do this well, you do that well. Sometimes we lose track of the things that we do well and the things that we're really good at, or the things that we like about ourselves. We tend to focus very much on the negative, and society is a lot to blame for that, because we're told that we're not good enough, we're told we need to improve, we're told we need to look better and thinner and more healthy and this color and have hair that's not grey and so on and so forth, or have hair for that matter. But I started writing down affirmations, and when I sort of got down to like a list of 10, I'd go and I'd stand in the mirror and I would repeat those to myself for 5 minutes. And the first day I felt like a total idiot. I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever had to do, was stand there and tell myself how good I am. And that became 7 minutes, and then became 10 minutes, and became 20 minutes. And I'm not saying you become an egotist, but it really does help to look yourself in the eye and say, hey, you're worth something. You are special. You have this talent. You have this ability. And that made a huge, 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 huge difference. I can't emphasize that enough. You got to try it. If you're struggling with depression, please try that. Write down 10 things that are good about you. Go and tell yourself that, and tell yourself that every day. Tell yourself that 2, 3, 4 times a day. As many times as it takes until you feel better. Because I'm telling you, it will help. It will absolutely help you. Get out there, do things. Find yourself some songs that lift your spirit, that make you feel happy. Put them in your ears, say your affirmations, go for a walk, go look at what is out there. It's amazing. Talk to people. Start finding things that are positive. Stop thinking, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm gray, I'm whatever, I'm balding, or whatever the thing is that is getting you down the most. Stop doing that shit. It's not worth it. You are worth so much more than that. You need to get yourself positive, get yourself thinking about things that are good, and things that are good about you and about your life, because believe me, there is so much out there that is good in your life. You just got to get out there and look for it. Change your attitude, change your focus. There is always, always a solution or an answer to every single problem. If you need help with depression, please reach out. Reach out to me, reach out to any of the crisis lines in your area. I will try and post some that I know at the end of this video if you need help fighting depression. You can also reach me by dropping me an email address as at the bottom of your screen right now, or if you want to learn a little bit more about me, see more of me, you can visit my webpage. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now. And I love to hear from you. If this video has helped you in any way, please share it. Please make sure that you share those numbers with people that are in need. And remember, if someone is going through depression, they need you. They need you to help encourage them and tell them that there is a solution and things will always get better.